Hello, how are you today? Hope you're doing good wherever you're watching from. If you're new to this channel, my name is David, and I do research on New York City youth gangs from the 1950s and 1940s too. And the video I had last week, I said I might do a little bit on the Corsair Lords. Turns out I went a different direction for this video, but there is mention of them, so you get to hear a little bit about them. Today, I have a story for you about a guy whose nickname was Nut. And Nut was in a gang called the Chaplains. And you're going to find out soon enough why he would have such a nickname. And I can assure you, it has nothing to do with the fact that he had a nutritional diet. Back in the 1950s, there were Chaplains gangs all over New York City. And this was especially true in Brooklyn, and particularly true in the housing projects. And here's an example. You had the Fort Greene Chaplains, you had the Marcy Chaplains, you had the Albany Chaplains, and those are all in housing projects. And in the case of Nut, he lived one block away from the Brevoort houses, and you guessed it, there were the Brevoort Chaplains. So because of this, I'm very confident that it was the Brevoort Chaplains that Nut was a member of. Now, about 3 blocks away from the Brevoort houses was the Kingsborough houses, and this was the home, the turf, of the notorious Corsair Lords, who I briefly mentioned at the very beginning of this video. And the Corsair Lords and the Brevoort Chaplains hated each other. In fact, this is how much they hated each other. In May 1957, they got into a fight, a gang rumble, and one of the guys was stabbed in the back with a knife, and it actually severed his spine. Now, what I'm about to tell you, I'm not sure if it was in a fight with the Corsair Lords, but one time, Nut was in a gang rumble, and he got cut with a saber of all things. Yes, this was a very dangerous area, and these gangs certainly played for keeps. And part of that reason was because of Nut himself. Nut had a difficult life. His father was absent and his mother was an alcoholic. She would leave him and his 2 brothers home alone while she went bar hopping. And she was a mean drunk too. She beat her sons mercilessly. And so as Nut and his 2 brothers grew up in a cold, loveless home, Nut gravitated towards the streets. And to no surprise, he got into a lot of trouble. I have a list of all the things he was arrested for in the 1950s. And as I read them, I want you to keep 2 things in mind. The first is this. It's going to give you a good idea of what Nut was like and the types of trouble and the types of crimes he was committing. And the second thing that I want to mention is this is not the complete list. I just cherry-picked some of them, most of them, but there are some I left out. So let's start off with December 21, 1953. When Nut tried to beat up a school guard and stole $12 from a teacher's desk. September 16, 1954, fighting in the streets. January 6, 1955, he assaulted a 12-year-old boy and tried to steal his watch. May 4, 1955, along with 3 other friends, he extorted money from another boy, and then when that boy's mother pointed him out to police, he assaulted her. November 1, 1957, he attempted to break into a radio and TV shop with a beer can opener. Now this one's getting close to home. June 14, 1959, Nut got into a fight with his brother Denny in a struggle over a knife. Nut was on the wrong end of this fight and he lost to his younger brother, and he sustained injuries to both arms and his chest. He had to get 12 stitches at the hospital. I'll give you one more. October 2, 1959, him and his mother got into an altercation. He threw his mother to the couch and he choked her. And you know what the fight was over? He was trying to get access to his brother's closet to either borrow or take his brother's clothing. I imagine you're probably not too surprised that Nut got sent to an upstate reformatory for assaulting his mother. And I'm not going to get into too much details about his incarceration there, but there is one thing that happened that was interesting to me, and that was in the form of a letter that he received from his brother, a brother that served time in another correctional facility. And in this letter, he gives an update on the comings and goings on at home. And to be honest with you, it's a pretty depressing letter about the sad state of affairs that the family found itself in. Here's what he said. Well, bro, things aren't going too well out here. Everything is in a turmoil. First of all, I'm still not working yet. Grandma has died. Uncle Hank and Aunt Buddy split up. Buzzy is away on leave. And the worst thing is that the cops got Denny, our brother, downtown on a homicide charge. They picked him up last Monday night. You might know this already because it was in all the New York papers. So as you can see, they have him up pretty tight. I started back to school. I am going to night school. I am trying to win a scholarship by July so I can go study in a university in Africa. That's the letter. And you probably noticed that Denny, the brother who was wrapped up on homicide charges, that was the brother that Nut got into a fight with that I mentioned earlier. You know, the one that they were fighting over a knife, and that Nut got those injuries to his arms and his chest. Well, Denny was the one who went away for homicide. Nut got out on parole, but this is kind of funny to me. He felt that he wasn't going to get a fair chance, so he didn't even bother reporting. This is the part that makes me laugh. He actually sent a typewritten letter to his parole officer, and this is what he said. I am sorry to inform you that I am violating parole. Do not try to find me because you will not. By the time you receive this letter, I will be far away from here. I hate to do it, but it is a thing that must be done. Don't worry, I won't get into any trouble. That was the letter. But the thing is, they did find him. And you know where they found him? The Brevoort houses. Nut never went away. He was caught right at home, basically. And it was on November 20, 1962 when it happened. And the parole officer cornered him. And Nut got very, very angry, and he threatened him, and he caused a crowd to gather. He even denied that it was him. Some of his friends called out to him using his nickname Nut, and he responded. And so, in the end, he gave up, and he allowed himself to be detained, and he served out the rest of his prison sentence. So, now you know everything there is to know about Nut of the Brevoort Chaplains. Actually, that's not totally true. There's lots of information that I didn't include in this video. If I did, it would probably be over an hour long. And this is the type of research and the type of video I just love to bring out into the light. I mean, these stories are taking place decades and decades ago. And so I really appreciate your support in watching this video. And before I go, I've got a question for you. What was your nickname when you were a teenager? And maybe you still have that nickname now. Drop it in the comments below. Thanks and have a great day.